first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you very much for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. For this segment, we are talking about the emerald ash borer. You've probably heard the name of that. This is an invasive insect that's certainly been on the East Coast. It's slowly been making its way over to the West Coast. It's been sighted many places, but now being actually documented in Portland and Multnomah County areas, and in addition to a bunch of others. So we're going to be talking about that today, including some new regulations that are going in, or at least some recommendations. We're going to get to the bottom of all of that on what we should know, and to help us do that, we've got Kat Bethea from the Oregon Department of Forestry. And Kat, thank you very much for joining us here today. So there was a lot of information that was given out today, and I wanted to just kind of sum up a little bit for anybody who doesn't know. Could you give us just a definition of the emerald ash borer, of what it is, and really what these new developments are that have been documented?
Thanks, Greg. So emerald ash borer, or EAB, is an invasive wood-boring beetle, and it originates actually from the northeast part of Asia. And so it unfortunately made its way to the United States in 2002 or so, where it was discovered in Detroit. And I think that actually predated a little bit. Before its discovery in Detroit, it was actually kind of an unknown secondary forest pest. It has since rapidly spread through the Midwest and East Coast, devastating ash tree species, things in the genus Fraxinus. And unfortunately, in 2022, it was discovered in Forest Grove. This is the first detection on the West Coast. Our next clearest detection is in Colorado. So we do think it had some human assistance making it all the way out here.
So yeah, skipping over the mountain states, essentially coming to Oregon first and then to Colorado. So how, you mentioned it would have human assistance. So how does an insect like that spread through human assistance?
It's actually really easy to accidentally spread forest pests. The number one mechanism it spreads is through firewood. So if you saw us at the state fair, or if you've heard one of our presentations around the state, we really focus on not moving firewood and buying it locally to where you're going to burn it, within 10 miles. And it's not just EAB that spreads in firewood, it's actually a variety of pests, but especially EAB, since it's usually under the bark of ash trees.
So if you have, say, firewood sitting in your backyard that you've had there for a while, or stored, or whatever, under a tarp, you're recommending don't take that if you're going to go, say, for a lot of people who are going up camping and, it's getting a little bit colder, some of the fire bans have been lifted, you can have those campfires. Don't bring that firewood. Is that your recommendation?
So you want to buy your firewood within 10 miles of where you're going to burn it. There's actually a quarantine in place around the counties that are infested, and that now includes Washington, Yamhill, Marion, Clackamas, and now Multnomah. And so it is actually against the OAR to remove firewood material from those areas to out. So you could accidentally be breaking an OAR. The other reason for that is that if it's firewood that you have felled and has been dead for several years and has aged, that's one thing. That is a situation in which that wood has probably dried out enough. After 3 years or so of drying, any EAB that are possibly still under that bark wouldn't be able to hatch. However, that's not the case, and you don't know that for every small fire stand you drive by. So it is safe to buy kiln-dried firewood and use that. That has been dried to an appropriate temperature, which is 160 degrees, for at least 1 hour. However, you can't really guarantee this when you're buying from just a place on the road. So just, reduce your risk and get it where you're going to be going. And, no one wants to spread this to Mount Hood or accidentally to the coast.
Yeah, so buy it within 10 miles of wherever it is that you're going to be camping. So any of those, when you're driving around and you see some of those roadside areas, people are maybe selling it from the home, that's something that you could buy and that you would be okay. Just to clarify that again.
If you're going to, the problem is moving it in and out of those quarantine areas. So that quarantine is regulated by the Oregon Department of Agriculture. So you don't want to buy firewood from within the quarantine and then move it outside the quarantine. That's the problem.
That's the big thing. Okay, and we've got that those details too at kptv.com as far as some of that. So, what is the damage so far with the emerald ash borer, as far as what has been found here in these most recent findings?
So, in the United States, this has been called the most devastating forest pest in North America. It has actually killed hundreds of millions of ash trees on the Midwest and East Coast. Oregon has one native ash tree species, Oregon ash, Fraxinus latifolia. But unfortunately, ash is also very commonly planted as a street tree, so it could be a yard tree or a landscape tree as well, and those are maybe non-native ash species. All ash species are going to be susceptible to EAB. In Forest Grove, where we have known about it the longest, we actually think that our infestation predated our discovery for a little while, which is one of the reasons why we say we know of these infestations. In that area, homeowners are already seeing massive tree mortality, and then that falls on the homeowner to have to do things like removals or treatments.
So this is something that homeowners have documented: ash trees die because of emerald ash borer, and that was in the Forest Grove area. Have you seen any of that within, like, say, the Portland, closer into Portland or Multnomah County?
So there's another infestation area that's in the Marion Clackamas County borderline. That one is actually maybe a little bit older. That was discovered in summer of 2024. After being infested with EAB, an ash tree is usually, we were talking about a 99% mortality rate. And unfortunately, that's within 5 to 7 years.
So 5 to 7 years, sometimes it could take that long before you start seeing, some of the effects of the emerald ash borer.
And ash trees are very resilient. So you could have a tree that is fairly infested and it looks very, very fine until it's not fine.
What are some of the treatment options that you're going through now as far as ash trees that are not infected currently?
So anyone who's interested in doing treatment should work with a licensed arborist, because in the state of Oregon, you want to make sure that the label is the law for pesticides. And so you want to make sure you're following you're crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. That being said, that the most common treatment option is an option if your trees are large and in good enough health. And that is a microsystemic injection. So the difference there is it's not going to be, sprayed into the atmosphere. This is getting directly injected into the tree, and the tree will uptake that and then cycle it around within its own vascular system. And then when EAB feeds all that, they will perish. We have a very detailed guide at OregonEAB.com that people who are interested in can kind of compare.
Is that something that the Oregon Department of Forestry is doing in general for some ash trees, or is this a really specific and targeted treatment that's going on with those?
Since you're injecting into a tree directly, this is a very specific thing to do. It is a little bit more difficult to do on a landscape scale. So if you're talking about like in larger acreages, people have to be a little bit more strategic. We do have some kind of decision trees and best management practices that are available on that website that people can kind of review and see if if this would be the best course of action for those areas.
What can people at home do to help inform and keep their eyes out for EAB infestations, or even just seeing, the insect at all?
I'm so glad you asked. There's actually something that every Oregonian can do, and that is become aware of the signs and symptoms of EAB. There is a large identification page on OregonEAB.com, and learning what an ash tree is the essential first step. And then you want to look for signs and symptoms of EAB. Some of the symptoms are general symptoms of tree stress, but just because your tree is stressed doesn't mean that it is EAB. And so really being able to look at that and look for D-shaped exit holes. You're looking for cracking bark where you can see serpentine galleries underneath them. And also increased woodpecker activity can be an indicator of emerald ash borer infestation. So I would recommend people go to the identification page, make sure they're looking at their ash trees, and then see if it looks like signs and symptoms of EAB. If both of those things are true, the number one thing anyone can do is report it at OregonInvasiveSpeciesHotline.org.
Okay, so you can go there, report it, and if somebody believes they may have EAB, then this is something that will help you out as far as ascertaining where the spread is.
Absolutely. And the Oregon Invasive Species Hotline is a reporting. You can call 1-866-INVADER or go online. And that we really ask that people do submit photos. This is the number one way that we find out from the public that there could be a potential positive in their area.
Anything else that you think is important for people to know?
This is going to be when, not an if situation for the spread in Oregon. Modeling for this is not very encouraging. And so this little steps that we can all take will actually have a really large impact. I want to thank everyone that has been so collaborative and cooperative in this effort, because this has truly been a group effort to prepare materials and could not have done it without everyone involved.
I guess I do have one final question. I mean, is there any hope of completely stopping the emerald ash borer, or is it more of a slow it down and try to contain the situation?
It is unfortunately that second case. In every single state it has been introduced to, it has never been eradicated. However, slowing down its spread has been impactful.
Well, Kat, I want to say thank you very much, for joining us to go over this information. You gave us a lot of resources there that people can go to, which I know everybody at home is thinking about that as well. And also, of course, at kptv.com, that is another place that we'll have some links for that also. So, Kat, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now, so we'll be back at 1 o'clock. We have our new news coming up here shortly, but these are some of the things that we can do here with this live stream, is get this information out to you and do a little bit of a longer form interview. So thanks for joining us. Feel free to send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.